What's the story, Morning Glory? What is up, Buttercup? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 13, Episode 5, Driving Miss Crazy. So we get started with Danielle. She's at home with her family. She's getting her little girl ready. They're going through some type of rehearsal for her daughter's entrance, for her birthday party that's going to be coming up. And so it's going to be a huge bash. The theme is Barbie. And so she's just getting her daughter ready for that. And she has invited everyone to the birthday party, obviously, except Jackie and Margaret, because Margaret doesn't have any small children. But she did invite Teresa, and Teresa doesn't have small children either. So I don't know why maybe Margaret was invited but couldn't make it. I don't know. So she is worried about how Jennifer Aiden and Rachel are going to get along because they have that big blow up fight at Teresa's Love Bubble event. Moving on from there, we see Rachel. She is at home with her family. Her parents come over, her grandmother. We also meet her brother and her sister-in-law. And this is where we find out as the audience that her husband, John, has sole custody of his son, Jaden, and the mother has no visitation. And I think Rachel had said something about how the mother is, she needs to get her life together first before she can, be granted any kind of visitation with her son. So there's a lot going on there. Then we move on to Melissa. She's taken her daughter Antonia for driving lessons, and she tells her daughter that whatever mess and drama is going on between Joe and his sister Teresa has got nothing to do with the children. It should not affect the relationship between the cousins. And Antonia says that when she's with her cousins, or when she's talking with her cousins, their parents' drama doesn't come up at all. They don't talk about it. They don't think about it. It's got nothing to do with them. And I remember Gia saying that whenever her mom and her uncle fight, a wall immediately goes up. And I thought she meant a wall went up between the two families where even the children don't even communicate at all. That's what I thought Gia meant when she said that a wall goes up. Maybe she meant a wall goes up between the parents' drama and the children. Maybe that's what Gia meant, because Antonia makes it seem like her and her cousins, they get along, everything's great, and whatever's going on between Teresa and Joe's got nothing to do with them. And then Melissa makes her promise that no matter what, she will always get along with her brothers. And I think with every parent that has children, of course, if you're a parent, you have children, you want your children to always get along, because the thought of your kids not getting along after you're gone, it's pretty scary. You want your children to be there for one another, to rely on one another, to always be, loving and friendly with one another. Always, the thought of your kids just moving on and going their separate ways and never speaking to each other at all, never seeing each other at all. That's a very, very, very heartbreaking, scary thought. Moving on from there, we see Teresa. She's at the bridal shop with her two daughters, Gia and Melania. She is picking out a veil. Now, when the season first started and they were showing us clips of what we were going to be seeing in the upcoming season, they showed the clip of Teresa in her wedding gown on her wedding day, about to make her walk down the aisle. And we see her from the back, and we see this beautiful veil, floor-length veil, and we see words on it. And I was like, why in the world would someone put words on their veil? I didn't get it at all. I didn't like it. But now that she explained why she wants the words there, it made a lot of sense. So she wants the words always together, in Italian, written on her veil, because those are the words that are on her parents' mausoleum. And so in a way, it's like her parents being there with her on her wedding day. So when she explained that, I was like, go ahead, Teresa. That makes a lot of sense. That's really beautiful. So then they talk about Melissa and Joe. Melania says that she hasn't seen them in a year. Gia says that Teresa was 2 minutes away. She was this close from asking her brother Joe to walk her down the aisle, because her kids were like, it should be your brother walking you down the aisle. So she was so close to asking Joe to walk her down the aisle, but something happened. I guess it got into a fight or something, and she never got around to it. She never did it. And so Melania says that if Joe does not show up at the wedding, she is done with her uncle. She will never talk to him ever again. It's game over for Melania if Joe doesn't show up at the wedding. Well, just make sure that your mother gives him and Melissa a good table. Okay, sits them at the bridal table or something. Okay, then there's a better chance of him showing up. Make sure that your mom doesn't have them sit all the way back by the bathrooms. Moving on to Jennifer Aiden. Okay, so she meets up with Melissa. Okay, this whole conversation with Melissa and Jennifer, it's their attempt to get closer, to be friends, to get back on friendly terms. I don't see that happening at all, because they showed us clips of the downfall of Melissa and Jennifer's relationship and all the fights that they had. And I mean, it was really bad. And I just don't ever see them being friends ever. I don't see that happening at all. And because of the fact that Jennifer is super close to Teresa and Teresa cannot stand Melissa, I just don't see how that's going to be possible. I don't see how Teresa is going to allow Jennifer Aiden to be very good friends with Melissa. Now, Jennifer Aiden might be a fake friend to Melissa, to get information from Melissa or about Melissa and then, take it over to the dark side. But I don't see Jennifer being a really good friend to Melissa. And I think Melissa knows that. So during their lunch, the conversation gravitates towards Margaret. And once again, Jennifer Aiden defends herself and says that she was not talking crap about Margaret when she called up Fessler. She just wanted to get a recommendation for a marriage counselor. And then somehow or another, the conversation turned towards Margaret. And all she was doing was giving Nestler facts about her history with Margaret. And then Jennifer tells Melissa that she had a conversation with Laura, which is Margaret's ex-best friend. And her name has been floating around quite a bit. I hope she makes an appearance this season to defend herself, because there's a lot being said about her and she needs to give her side of the damn story. So Jennifer tells Melissa that she spoke with Laura, and Laura had told her that Margaret told Laura that she had encouraged Melissa to leave Joe Gorga. So during that one season, which I think was, I don't know how many years ago, like it was last season or year before, I don't know. But recently, one of the most recent seasons, Melissa and Joe were going through their problematic phase in their marriage, which I didn't buy at all. I think it was just for them to have a storyline. I did not buy that Melissa and Joe were having any kind of marital issues. It just seems so fake and so overly dramatic to me. But anyways, so during their phase when they were going through their problems, Margaret, according to Laura, Margaret was trying to get Melissa to leave Joe. And so, of course, Jennifer takes this piece of information and she runs with it, and she tells Melissa, yeah, she was telling her friend Laura that, you should have left Joe and you should have gotten with a baller. She was always trying to convince you to leave your husband and get with the baller. And Melissa was like, okay, it didn't quite happen that way. Okay. It wasn't like she was always telling me, even when me and Joe were getting along, Margaret is there telling me, you know what, I think you should leave your husband and go get with the baller. No, it wasn't like that at all. She said that when her and Joe were having problems, Margaret was being a friend and letting her know that life can go on after Joe, and you can be an independent woman and you can take care of yourself, and you don't have to depend and rely on any man. And if you want to get with the baller, get with the baller. It was nothing more than that. I mean, to me, that's what makes sense. I don't see Margaret telling Melissa all the time to leave her husband to get with somebody much richer. So, Melissa didn't buy that. It did not work. And so Jennifer then tries to tell Melissa something about how, well, you need to really examine your friendship with Margaret, because Margaret goes through friends like the way she goes through water. She was friends with Laura. Now they're not friends. She was friends with Danielle Straub. Now they're not friends. She was friends with Siggy. Now they're not friends. So you need to really reevaluate your relationship with Margaret. And, I don't know. It's just like, the way that Jennifer is going about this is, it's so obvious. It's like she doesn't even care. She doesn't even know how to do it tactfully. She doesn't even know how to do it covertly. It's just so, hey, I don't like her and I don't want you to like her either. She might as well just say that. She might as well just say, hey, let's pretend we're fifth graders, okay? And we're back on the playground and I'm not getting along with that girl and I don't want you to get along with her either. And I want you to come and be my friend. That's what basically it looks like. It's so stupid and immature. Anyways, moving on from there. So Fessler, she is having an event at her home or party basically, and she invites all the women there. And we find out that Margaret has to go through surgery with her hand, and Melissa tells Margaret what Jennifer had said. Melissa tells her, hey, I met with Jennifer and she told me that you used to tell your ex-best friend Laura that I needed to leave my husband. And Margaret was like, I cannot believe she took my words and she twisted them like that. I don't know if she was referring to Jennifer or referring to Laura, but, she was like, no, it was, it was nothing like that. So Jacqueline ends up showing up. Now, one thing that I can say about Jacqueline is that I don't understand. Okay, Jacqueline, to me, every time I see her on camera, she seems really miserable. I don't know if this is just her demeanor. I don't know if it's because she's been demoted to friend of, and I can't even say demoted. Maybe she chose to be friends of, because sometimes the housewives will choose to be a friends of because of their schedules and their personal lives. They just can't do it anymore. They can't devote as much time to the show as they once used to, or whatever. They don't like, the camera's always in their home and it's so invasive to them that they may just relegate themselves to be friends of. But Jacqueline seems, or Jackie seems very unhappy every time I see her on screen. I don't know what's going on there. Anyways. So then they talk about Danielle's relationship with her brother, and the conversation, somebody asked, so what happened between you and your brother? And she gives the same reason that she gave Melissa. She said, I used to do a lot of Instagram. I used to post a lot on Instagram, and my brother would be in the comments making fun of me. And so I blocked him. And when I blocked him, he disinvited me or uninvited me to his wedding. And we haven't talked since. And nobody's buying that. Nobody at the table is buying this story that their relationship fell out over Instagram. I think what really happened, I think that her and her mom, because the brother doesn't talk to the mother either, I think her and her mom were talking a lot of mess about his fiance/wife. And I think that's what did it. I think that's when he decided to cut them off, because his wife wasn't going to put up with that. And he listened to his wife. Then they talk about Jennifer and how problematic she is. And it's right at this time that Jennifer makes an interest. So Jennifer has a busted foot. Margaret has a busted hand. And you would think that that'd be enough to bond them. But no. So everything was getting along fine. Everybody was getting along really good until Jennifer shows up. So Jennifer shows up. And I must admit that Jennifer did not start the mess that happened at Fessler's party. What started it, basically, was Jackie. Jackie made a joke at Jennifer's expense, something about her always wanting to brag. And Margaret hopped on to the tail end of that joke and was like, well, you do brag a lot. And Jennifer was like, I don't brag, I just explain. That's like her motto this season. She's probably going to have t-shirts and baseball caps that says, I don't brag, I just explain. Or I don't talk crap about people, I just give facts. So when Margaret hopped on and was like, yeah, you do kind of come off as a braggart. You're always talking about the things that you have, all your material stuff in your house and blah, blah, blah. And Jennifer was trying to defend herself. And that's really what started it. Okay. So Margaret's issue with Jennifer is that she wants to act like, oh, let's make up, let's be friends, let's put the past behind us like she did last season. But then she goes around talking crap about Margaret to the newbies on the show. So Margaret's whole thing is, I don't understand. I thought we had made up. I thought we had a really good conversation. I thought we were going to put the past behind us, but here you are talking crap about me. And then here comes, Jennifer, I didn't talk crap about you. I'm just giving the history. I'm just explaining the history of our relationship. And so Margaret was like, why are you even doing that? You don't have to give the history of our relationship when you're trying to bond with the new ladies in the group. And then Jennifer's like, well, there you go again, telling me what I can and can't talk about. But it's true enough, Jennifer, if you're trying to make friends with these new people, Why are you talking about how you don't get along with one particular person in the group? Why don't you just bond on the things that y'all have in common, on the things that y'all like about each other? For you to be like, listen up, let me tell you about Margaret. Why does it have to be like that? They'll find out on their own. I mean, it's you really come off as immature. You come off like that fifth grader who doesn't want anyone to be friends with the girl that they don't like on the playground. You really come off like that. And luckily, Danielle and Rachel are not really buying it. They're not going to fall for that. They're free thinkers and they want to make up their own minds about people. So, but then anyways, that's Margaret's biggest issue with Jennifer. And Jennifer, I'm just speaking facts. I'm just speaking facts. Well, can you speak facts about your own life and not about Margaret? So Margaret sees, she sees that Jen is trying to turn people against her, and of course that bothers her. Fessler says that Margaret had not said anything bad about Jennifer because Jennifer was trying to say that, well, she goes around saying bad things about me. And Fessler stepped in and said, she's never said anything negative about you. You're always the one saying negative things about her. So Margaret and Jen, they go at it. They start screaming at each other. I mean, it was bad. It was so intense. It's like it always is. They're yelling at the top of their lungs. The neck veins are popping out. They're throwing curse words left and right. They're talking about each other's families. They're talking about each other's marriages. They're insulting each other. They're hitting below the belt. It's awful. Melissa even said that she was actually shook on how bad this fight was. And she has seen many fights between Margaret and Jennifer. And it got so bad that Fessler stood up and she was also screaming, but she was screaming at them to shut the hell up because she's got neighbors and the whole entire block can hear them. So she's trying to get them to shut up, act civilized. Margaret gets so upset that she walks up and she's about to leave. She is walking towards the door, but Fessler stops her and says, no, I'm not going to let you leave. I want you to sit back down. She turns to Jennifer and she says, Jennifer, you have to leave. So Jennifer was like, I was going to leave anyway. And so when she gets up and goes, Tweedledum, Teresa also gets up and goes. Now, you can see that as a sign of loyalty that, we came together. So did they come together? They didn't come together. No, they didn't come together. Because I was going to say maybe they came together, so they're going to leave together, but no. So my initial thought was right. Teresa left because she just doesn't have the mental capacity to be around these women by herself. She needs to have her little sidekick by her side. She can't face these women alone. So Teresa gets up and leaves, and soon after that the party ends. Now Jennifer tells Teresa when they're outside about to leave, she tells Teresa that Margaret is so jealous of her life. She wants her life. And the fact that she loves her husband, Margaret cannot stand that. I'm like, but Margaret loves her husband. Her husband loves her. And I've never seen Joe Bonino look at Margaret the way Nabil looks at Jennifer. Because Nabil looks at Jennifer like, oh my God, this woman again. That's how he looks at her whenever she opens her mouth to speak. And I've never seen Joe look at Margaret like that. Moving on to Danielle. So she's having her daughter's birthday party. The one thing that I can say about that damn party, it was pink. That party was pink. So Rachel and Jennifer, they get a chance to talk because, they had that big fight at Teresa's event. So now they're going to try to have a conversation and see if they can move forward. And Jennifer is still sticking by her story that she wasn't talking crap about Dolores, that she was just giving history, just stating facts. That's all she's doing. Rachel still doesn't buy it at all. And she still considers Jennifer talking crap about Dolores. So then Teresa and Louis show. I'm like, what the hell is Louis doing here? This is a child's 5th birthday party. I mean, I barely can understand why Teresa's there, but it makes more sense for Teresa to be there because she's actually, I guess, friends with Danielle. And I'm like, what is Louis and his white V-neck t-shirt doing here? So Jennifer, so Rachel, Danielle, Teresa, and Jennifer, they're all huddled together talking, and Jennifer wants to play the victim because they're talking about what happened at Fessler's party. So Jennifer wants to play the victim, like Margaret was coming after me, Margaret was attacking me, and Danielle was like, no, 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 no. Y'all were going at it equally. Y'all were going after each other equally. It wasn't one had the upper hand and the other one was just laying down playing victim. No, y'all were both going at it. And so Jennifer then tells them what Laura said, how Margaret was trying to get Melissa to leave her male chauvinistic husband. And Jennifer and Teresa, they try really, really hard to convince Rachel and Danielle to not be friends with Margaret, talking about how she's, not a good friend to have, that she's really dangerous, that you can't trust her, she's mean. I mean, just going on and on about Margaret. And Rachel's like, listen, I have a mind of my own and I'm trying to get to know everybody individually. So I'm going to make up my mind on how I feel about people. You don't have to tell me anything about anybody. I'm going to judge people, as they are in the way that I see them and how they interact with me and how they are with me. And Teresa was like, okay, just do your research. And I'm just like, y'all are just the most immature women I have ever met. Teresa, you have a whole wedding that you're trying to plan, but you're worried about whether or not whether or not these women are going to like Margaret. Jennifer, you're still struggling with your issues with Nabil, but you're so worried about, oh my God, I don't want Margaret to have any friends. Now, Jennifer and Margaret, I think that the reason why Jennifer cannot stand Margaret and why she hates her and why that hate will never go away is because Margaret is symbolic of Nabil's infidelity. And what I mean by that is this. Before we found out that Nabil had an affair on Jennifer, we already knew about Margaret and her having an affair on her first husband because she talked about it on the show a lot. She owned her stuff. Like, yes, I cheated on my husband. My husband was really hurt by what I did. Our marriage didn't survive it, and I ended up marrying the one that I cheated with. So when Jennifer knew this whole story, she instantly became very judgy towards Margaret. Margaret also talked about how she was a victim of workplace harassment. Her bosses, she felt like she had to sleep her way to the top because this was back in the 70s or 80s or whatever. And, it was hard for women to move up. And the women that did move up were the ones that did what the male bosses wanted them to do. So she slept her way to the top. And of course, Jennifer took that and she got really judgy with that as well. And I think that Jennifer cannot stand Margaret because Margaret shows that a person can cheat and be happier with the person they cheated with because Nabil cheated on her. And I think her biggest fear is that either he might go back to that first mistress or he may find another mistress that's going to take over the life that she now has. And I think that worries her because Margaret is proof that people leave their spouses for the people that they cheat with and they can be happy because Margaret is happy with Joe Bonino. She's extremely happy with him, or so it seems. And so that scares the hell out of her. And also, it doesn't do Margaret any good in Jennifer's eyes that Margaret revealed on television that Nabil had this affair because I didn't know. I don't think the majority of the public knew that Nabil cheated on Jennifer until Margaret brought it up. And Margaret should not have done that. If that's the one thing that I wholeheartedly disagree with Margaret about, that she should not have brought up Nabil's affair on camera. But she only did it because Jennifer just kept on picking on her about her cheating on her first husband, her mother cheating and sleeping around, Margaret sleeping around at work to get to the top and all this. She just kept on bringing that up and picking on her and using that information and throwing it at her, using it against her, trying to hurt her with that information. And Margaret could not take it anymore. She was like, okay, you're so concerned about me cheating, but your own husband cheated on you. Do you pick on him the way you pick on me? So yeah, it's understandable why Margaret decided to expose that on television because she got tired of Jennifer picking on her. And so ever since then, obviously Jennifer doesn't see it for Margaret. So that coupled with the fact that, like I said, Margaret is living proof that people can be happy with the people that they cheated with. That makes Jennifer absolutely hate Margaret. And the reason why, that hate is directed towards Margaret, but it's really meant for Nabil. But because she wants to brag and put on this show that her and Nabil are this perfect couple living this perfect life, she's going to redirect her anger. She's going to deflect and redirect her anger to Margaret. But she's really mad at Nabil. Not only because of the affair, because I also think there's something else going on in that marriage, because Nabil seems like he is reached the end of his line with Jennifer. And I think there's some kind of resentment that they have towards one another. So, yeah, that's my opinion on why I think that that Jennifer cannot stand Margaret. It's just misdirected anger that she has really towards her husband, but she'd rather just let it go on Margaret. I could be wrong. That's my opinion. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Go ahead and subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.